Yeah.
right? And you said the blessing. The blessing is your ability to recognize.
Discernment.
Right. When you can capture what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and what you're doing.
Watch that. It just, man. It'll give you the opportunity to administrate.
Right.
Break it down.
It's all these words. It's there.
Break it down.
In you going and doing the work on yourself, right? It gives you start having discernments of who you are and who you're not, or you should. So when you go out into the world and these reflections starts coming at you in real time, you're acting. I'm not going to say reacting, because reaction means you're acting again in a way of something familiar. Mm-hmm. So you're acting in accord with the real life stimuli that's happening in that moment. And you can administer, goes back to administration. Mm-hmm. You can administer the proper discernment. I don't want to say judgment, but if we're going to use judgment, it's more of you deliberating, okay, is this the best way I should go? Is this how I should deal with this person or not deal with that person?
Right.
So thinking about that, you know thyself. You can make an executive decision on the spot. You have an authority about yourself that if somebody's trying to inject a certain thought or idea towards you, you can actually deliberate it on the spot and say, listen, I hear what you're saying. I appreciate your perspective, but I don't necessarily agree with you, but that's okay.
Right. Because that's their lane.
That's their lane. And when you have confidence in yourself like that, when you can't really be swaying this way or that way, or, certain, you have traumas based on how you may have been treated as a child, treated with your friends, being, taken advantage of, all these different things. It gives you, you have people start coming to you for counsel. You know what I mean? Because they see something in you, again, that either in them that they see a lack in, or they see a strength in you that they feel they could come to you and ask you certain questions.
Right. Because once you see the light, we're all attracted to the light.
Right.
So we're all looking for the light, or we're looking for that wisdom,
right,
to help us get from a certain point in our life to another point,
right,
within life.
And the thing about the light, it attracts both positive and negative.
Right.
And sometimes the negative, how I see it sometimes, they'll come to you, but usually it's to get you to agree with what they're saying.
Right. Yeah.
It's like they want your wisdom,
right,
but at the same time they want to be convinced that they're right in whatever direction that they're trying to go that's contrary to peace.
Right. And let us make it clear. Negative doesn't mean bad.
No.
It doesn't mean bad or all that stuff that I know some people teach. A negative, or what we would say a negative person, is they just look at certain things contrary to what we look at.
Pessimist. Pessimist. They could be love light. They probably give you the clothes off their back. I'm not going to describe somebody that's loving. Right. They could be of love and light, but they still have a mentality based on traumas, based on fear, that projects a negative outview on life.
Right. Let me give you somebody. Thanos.
If anybody doesn't know who that is,
was he right, or was he right, or was he wrong?
He was negative.
Right.
Wait, hold on. Let me see if I can say it right. I want to say it. Let me see if I can say it right. He was wrong when it comes to love.
Right.
Love light.
So let me ask you.
The only reason, I'm not saying he's wrong because of he wanted to exterminate half the population so that we could restart anew and afresh.
Right.
But I would say the wrongness and
didn't give the choice.
He didn't give choice. He didn't give the freedom of choice. Right. And it's like, who are you to decide?
Right.
But he did say it was random.
So how much of that decision making is connected to ego inflation.
Say that again.
How much of that decision
Ooh, this is good.
is connected to ego inflation? Because ego inflation, right? I think that might be one of the core issues with government structure.
Right.
It's a good point, because even I'm thinking about the analogy we're using, which is Thanos from Avengers Endgame and Infinity War. He said, it's the responsibility is mine.
Right.
And it's like, well, a lot of our brothers, a lot of, people in high places, churches, mosques, temples, so on and so forth, they feel that it's their responsibility. The people, I have to make these decisions for the people.
Right.
And I'm not saying they're right. I'm not saying they're wrong. The question is, how much of that is ego? Because who told you that?
Right.
Who told you that? Who told Thanos it was, I have to make this decision because,
Right. Yeah.
where did that come from?
That's what I'm saying. Ego inflation.
It can all, like I said, all of this stems back to trauma. Somewhere down his line, it was traumatic to him because it's too many people on the planet. That's traumatic to somebody. You know what I'm
Wars.
saying?
He said there was a lot of wars. He seen people starve. He seen people die.
Right.
And again, this is an analogy, but everything we watch on television is based on real principles.
Well, that's the entire premise of the human experience.
Mm-hmm.
Everything in the physical expression is the spiritual reality.
Right.
Exactly.
On some level.
On some level.
On some level.
Some shape, form, or fashion, right? So it's like this, right? So like I think that ego inflation, this happens when you magnify your office.
Come on. Come on.
Hit me
Come on.
again and then elaborate.
I think that ego inflation happens when you magnify your office. So what happens is that your opinion becomes so significant in your mind, right, that you don't see anything else.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that that's wrong. Okay? What I am saying is that might be a little imbalanced. Where you miss the opportunity to capture the whole picture. Right? Take in, what's the scripture? Do nothing having not considered the entire cost.
Right.
So yeah, you'll convince yourself and be like, no, I got the answer.
So when relating that to government, right?
Right.
Let's go to the physical, real life. Would you see that as a dictatorship?
Yeah. Right. Anybody that has ever led people, right? That your biggest asset, if you will, is your people.
Is the people. Now how you project your, I don't want to say your will, ideas to the people determines.
Right. Right. You're gonna always get back what you put out.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So if your ego is a destructive nature over those who you have guardianship, right? In turn, those individuals, they will return that back to you.
Okay.
Right.
This is just a plug. It's not a plug, but it's something for people to watch. If you want to understand negative construct, I'm gonna use the term, but it's not exclusive. Negative constructs in government versus the whatever else is the other. And it's a documentary on Netflix called How to Become a Tyrant.
Okay.
I really think y'all brothers should watch it. But it really gets into remember I said everything we watch is like it's something about the psyche of man. It's a reflection of something
Yes.
spiritual. It's energy.
Yes.
Star Wars, all of our cartoons,
Right.
you know, He-Man and Skeletor, Autobots, Decepticons. It's a principle that is kind of replayed in the psyche of man. What's the name of that book you have, Malak?
Which one?
Man and His Symbols.
Oh yeah, Man and His Symbols by Carl Jung.
Carl Jung.
Yeah, Carl
Right.
G. Jung.
Yes. So when you start looking at government, you have what we considered, I would call it true democracy, when the people has the power. You have the people. If you go back into tribal days, you have the tribe, you have the elders, and then you may have a particular person or persons that are actually leading the people. But it's all on the vote of the people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
But then tyranny is when one person, you have the people, but one person,
Or a group of people.
or a group of people, but usually it's still usually
Still a
the
front.
one man,
Still a
but
front
the
dude.
group is his enforcers.
Right.
And it goes back to, do you rather be loved or feared?
Right. And I'm gonna read something on fear.
Read.
Read, bro. Read.
For
Bring
sure.
it out.
Fear is the chief element, and fear can be more deep-seated than people imagine. It passes into the deeper channels of a man's being and reacts upon the functioning of his mind, bringing periods of great distress and anxiety.
So what does that do to a government structure?
Right. The same thing it does to your body.
Right.
Erodes over time.
It erodes over time. Now think about, and I know these things don't happen overnight, right? But maybe one point of consideration, right, in government is just to be more loving, right? And what I mean by being more loving is, right, just simply seeing yourself in the other person, right? Wanting for the other person what you want for yourself. I'm not saying be taken advantage of and all the other things that, come with a certain type of mindset, right? But what I am saying is, the uplifting and the nurturing of a community through thought, through deed, through word expression, right? Starting with yourself, monitoring what you're doing, what you're feeling, what you're thinking.
Actively heal your traumas. I got to throw that in there. Actively heal your traumas.
Yeah, for sure.
Because if you can't, if you're not able to heal your traumas, it kind of puts a limitation on the amount of love that you'll be able to express.
And I think we all have been in that place before.
Right.
And we're all still. I mean, I'm still doing work, so I'm not sitting here from a seat like, it's work.
Right.
It's constant work.
But think about when you got a group of people who are constantly doing that work.
Mm-hmm.
Right? As opposed to a group of people who are just doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Like it's gonna be different.
Right.
One side is Mitzrayim or Egypt, the other side is Goshen.
Mm-hmm. Even if you want to go take it further, that's why the king wasn't supposed to have certain things over the people. He weren't supposed to collect all these things.
Right.
So to keep him in a certain position, saying,
Right.
"No, I'm here for the people."
Right.
Once
once you put yourself in a place to be looked up at, that means that you're also in a place to look down
right.
on people.
Right.
So it's